there are things known, and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception, and the doorways of perception are now open. All around us, there exist worlds of the seen and the unseen, in a universe of endless possibilities. We should never limit ourselves to a single perspective. For in order to hunt the shadows and become true explorers of the unknown and the unexplained, we must sometimes take a paranormal point of view.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. This is another special edition of Paranormal Point of View coming your way. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be out there in the world. Okay, absolutely. Welcome aboard. Buckle up, buckle down, and buckle in. We've got an interesting show ahead for you tonight. Okay, absolutely. It's been a long week. It's been a very interesting week, too, by the way. Absolutely. And, living in the times that we're living in, I'm reminded of that ancient Chinese curse. And it goes like this, may you live in interesting times. And I'm filled without doubt we are doing that. Absolutely. We are living in some very interesting times. Absolutely. I got a very special guest tonight waiting in the room in the room behind me here, and in the green room or whatever you want to call it. And her and her son are going to join us shortly here. Uh, we got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to talk a lot about tonight. Absolutely. Want to mention that did a fantastic show with Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress, last Monday. Check it out if you get a chance. Also did a great show with BMR, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I think that was Tuesday, yeah. And that was a great show. Go check it out. If you want to catch up on all this stuff, you will find it on Hunting the Shadows YouTube podcast channel, okay? Absolutely. We want you to come on over and enjoy yourself. Got a big library of stuff you can play with over there. All right. Absolutely. And want to give a shout out to my good friend Gerald Fountain. He's in here tonight, Midwest Night Watchers. We did a great show with him Monday. Go check it out if you missed it. We got another one coming up this Monday. Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise, okay? Absolutely. Want to welcome everybody in the chat room tonight. We're slowly gathering in the grotto. And we've got Blue-Eyed Bandit and Tiger Eye, and we've got Shiro, and we've got the Wizard Moon and Demaria, and Mr. Russell Allred, and Midwest Night Watchers, and Jason, and the list goes on and on. Good. We're starting to gather in here. We're ready to bring forward my special guest tonight, and her boy. And this is that Gong girl that we all know and love, okay? And this is Maureen and Gus. Welcome aboard, Paranormal Point of
Hey.
View. Good evening.
Hey everyone, can we get
Hello, Gus. Hello, Maureen. All
some
right.
alien emojis in the chat if you can hear me?
Gus is getting a little camera shy, ain't he?
Yeah. Oh, he's here. He's on his post.
Yeah.
Where he
There he
usually
is.
is
Yeah, he just wanted.
during your
Yeah.
show and Jessica's show. And
There you go.
Gus, you gotta go this way. Here, I'll reroute him. So this is Gus. He's here. Look at the screen. There you go. You got it. And he's a French bulldog. He loves the paranormal. And
he's very he seems like a very sensitive kind of fellow there, and definitely they can pick up on a lot of paranormal stuff that human beings don't. That's the way that goes usually.
He certainly does.
Mm-hmm.
So is my microphone working okay? Can you hear me pretty good?
Well, you now there probably might be one or two people out there that don't know you, so you want to, kind of tell them, a little bit of your background.
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Maureen, and Girl in Her Gong 1111. I do have a YouTube channel. It's small. It's got mostly videos of Gus, and eventually, I'll do some lives. I've had some paranormal encounters. In particular, I've seen the Fae surrounding Gus before, and I've had Gus for about 4 years, and I noticed an object. It wasn't a mouse. It wasn't a toy. It was white, and it went across the floor, and it went under one of the china cabinets, and it looked like it almost looked like a crab. And I live in the Chicagoland area. We don't have crabs walking around or anything crazy like that. And I was just noticing these things after Gus came into my life. This was probably 2022 when I saw that. And we would create these videos where I would be driving, and we're on the roads where you don't go too fast. And I would see like these lights surrounding him, and it wasn't dust. It was like something that surrounded him. And it took
That's
me.
very interesting. Yeah, you think you're kind of attuned to a lot of this because you do have some Irish blood in you, definitely. So you
Oh
got a
yes,
little Celtic blood. You think you're kind of in touch with it because of that. You see some of this stuff that others might not see. That's interesting to think about. How very Irish are you, by the way?
well, I'm second generation Irish American. Both of my grandmas came from Ireland. One came from
Wow.
County Mayo, and then my
Mm.
other grandma, the city grandma, she never well, she assimilated, whereas my other grandma, she did not assimilate. And when I say the word assimilate, she like lost her Irish brogue. She got a job and she raised two kids on her own, and she worked at a place called Montgomery Ward. This was my grandma from Donegal, and I think she lived in Limerick also. That's where she's from. I don't know much about my grandpas. One was a prize fighter, and he lived in Jersey. So he was American, and my other grandpa was from Ireland, but I don't know much about him. So I'm second
You're very Irish,
generation.
man. You're
Oh yeah,
definitely got a lot. You got a lot of Irish blood in you, definitely.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. So Gus is honorary Irish, even though he is a
Oh, is
French
he? All
bulldog.
right. There you go, Dad.
There he is.
You got the
He's
Celtic look on him there. Yeah.
he's here by popular demand.
Are you familiar, Maureen? Are you familiar with the corgis? The corgis are supposed to be fairy dogs.
Yes, corgis.
You ever heard
Yes,
about that?
I have. Yeah, I've seen like the illustrations where they have like the fairies riding on the back of the corgi, or however you pronounce it. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I can link this to my grandma, that she always had her culture. She always spoke with her Irish brogue, and she knew Gaelic.
Uh,
And she was the grandma that grew up on a farm, and she would tell me the stories about the fairy, and she would call them the fae. And the fae would take care of baby animals. So she would always tell me these stories. We'd be in the backyard looking at like bunny rabbits and like birds and whatnot. And I can remember her telling me the stories about how they take care of the animals.
that's interesting. I'm sure you have seen that movie, and I recommend it to anyone that's never seen it. Darby O'Gill and Little People is a great movie, by the way, great Disney movie. Do you remember the scene where he catches the leprechaun, puts him in a bag, and
Yeah.
takes them down to the pub, and he's
Yeah,
telling
you.
everybody about how he outsmarted him and trapped him and caught him and put him in a bag, and they all want to look at him, and they open the bag and he's a rabbit. And he said that
That's
darn
funny.
leprechaun, he turned himself into a rabbit. That was really good. That was a great scene, by the way.
Yeah, that's really funny. And there's a lot of fairies in pop culture, even in like video games. They're the video game. Oh.
Maureen, and that's one thing I like about the fairies. They're kind of very mischievous, They're very they're trickster type spirits in ways. They can kind of be. Some of them can be kind of malevolent, in the way that they do
Mhm.
things. But then other ones are just sort of like playing a joke on you a lot of times. That's another way they look at stuff, and they enjoy tricking human beings. I
Mhm.
think. I mean, that's sort of their hobby, I guess. Something that they like to do. And that's the thing about. I was reading this the other day that says if you ever catch a leprechaun, okay, if you ever grab him, just like old Gus there, if you ever grab him, you can't ever break eye contact or he'll disappear on you. So you got to keep your eyes on him all the time. You got your hands on him, or
Oh.
he'll disappear on you. So that's just kind of the way the fairies are. But it makes them very interesting. But there is and here's the thing about Ireland and Scotland as well as Wales. They have a whole culture based on this stuff.
Mhm.
It's fascinating.
Well, I was
It really
doing
is.
my
Yeah.
research for this show. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear
And
you fine. Yep.
yeah, there was this group in Ireland. Now I need like hooked on phonics to be able to pronounce some of this. Let me have a look at my notes here. There's people that take great reverence to the fairies,
hmm
and uh, the name of them is, if anyone knows in the chat, let's see here. It's the Creed de Merci. I know I'm not really pronouncing it correctly, but it's spelled CREIDEAMH and then SI. And these people honor the fairies, and they want to avoid the wrath of the fairies. So what they do is they don't mess with like the fairy dwellings and whatnot, and they give offerings like milk, baked goods, apples, berries, and just show respect for the fairies because you don't want to piss them off.
Yeah,
And
that's a good.
it's
That's a thing that they practice a lot in Celtic countries. You got to keep the fairies happy, so you give them offerings every now and then.
But what if you did piss off the fairies? Pardon my English here. The best way to keep them at bay is to use garlands and marigolds and primroses at your door, and also rowan and blackthorn, or a bag of clover. You could wear it around your neck. I don't think you can buy it at War Woman Goods, Jessica's shop, but you can definitely get really nice tiger eye and turquoise jewelry. So I highly recommend.
Oh yeah, the green. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And speaking of
That's the what?
tricksters,
That's the wearing of the green.
oh yeah,
Yeah, for luck.
we
Absolutely.
recently had a
Fascinating
coyote
stuff, Maureen.
encounter. Oh,
There are some very interesting. I was telling somebody about this the other day. I think her name is Claudia, and she is actually the queen of banshees. She's an interesting person as well, and very lore. The she is basically and it's sort of like a saying like a woman is a she, but they're called the she, the banshee, and then there's the city she,
hmm.
and there are different types of she. These there's an Irish word for something like spirits. In other words. Um, It's very interesting the belief systems that they have in place for this stuff. And we were talking about that one time not long ago about the Irish werewolves. The Irish werewolves are looked upon as guardians and not bad guys. They're sort of good guys in Ireland. And then, of course, you had the Irish warriors, who were those that were supposedly could turn into werewolves, by the way. They were very much like the Viking Ufanar. They could, or the berserkers, they would turn into these wolves, and they fought for the lords, the different lords in the different areas of Ireland. They were the supreme warriors of Ireland, and so this stuff is fascinating. I mean, I would suggest to anybody that you get deep into this Celtic folklore and look some of this stuff up, because it is downright very interesting. Really, some strange rabbit holes, definitely.
Yeah, I was surprised to see banshees listed because my grandma did tell me about the banshees. And if you hear one wailing, it's like death is coming. But I was doing my research today for, talking points. And, I like to bring receipts and, have things relevant. And there were types, what they listed was the banshees and the leprechauns and the pukas. The pukas, they're like horse-like creatures, and then a dullahan, and that's basically a headless horseman. And then I know you've done shows with Jessica about the changelings.
Well, also the headless horseman. He drives the coach to bar, which is the death coach that comes after you supposedly when you die. And this headless horseman guy, he's got a whip made out of a human spine.
Mm.
And when he gets in front of your house, he opens the door of the coach and calls your name. It's time for you to go depart this life. Definitely, he's come to pick you up in the coach to bar, which means I think it's actually Celtic for the black coach,
And
the
that
death coach. Yeah.
that would be 33 vertebrae if they take your entire spine. So it's interesting that it's
Um,
33. The vertebrae, from your neck all the way down to your tailbone.
it would make a good whip, would it not?
Well, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
But these fae, they're very protective of their domains, and they have things called ring forts. So I'm sure in the chat people are going to say ring farts, as a joke, but they also have fairy trees, and that's linked to the hawthorn. I know that you've
Mhm.
talked about the hawthorn
Oh
before.
yeah.
Um,
Well, there's a lot of very interesting legends attached to some of this stuff. I think one of the ones that is my favorite is the Abattoir. The Abattoir is actually a vampire, and he was a very evil vampire that lived in Ireland. And they kept burying this guy. He would. They kept dying. They kept burying him, and he kept coming back. And finally, one smart vampire hunter comes along and says, "Well, you guys are doing this wrong. You got to bury him upside down on his head and put a big rock on him." And when they did that, he didn't come back. So that was a smart idea.
yeah, definitely. Have you ever had any encounters of the fae? Or anybody in chat? I can look down and see the chat if anyone
Well,
has
I think
had.
I had something very close to some type of encounter like that happened to me back when I was very young. I was probably about 16 or something like that. And I was out in a patch of woods that I had not been in a long time. And I came upon a fairy ring, which is basically a ring of mushrooms that were growing, complete round circle. And, it was late in the day. It wasn't dark or anything, but it was going in the twilight when I walked up on this circle. And I had read. I remember reading or something about that. When I was a kid, I read all the time. I was reading books and all. I was a big reader. I still am. But I had read something. I said, "God, this is a fairy ring," because I walked up on it and I saw it. And And then I remembered, oh, you're not supposed to go in the fairy ring. You're not supposed to step in it. So, uh, and I said, well, I better not do that. And here's the weird thing, Marie. It's while I was standing there looking at it that there was a complete circle of lightning bugs that started going around in this ring. And I'm going, God, I've never seen them do that before. I never ever seen them do. They were like going around in a ring inside this mushroom, and I said, well, I think I'm intruding on something. I got the weird feeling that hey, I shouldn't be seeing this. So I turned around, took off, and left. But that was a very strange experience, and I remember to this day. And I have warned people since then: if you ever come up on a fairy ring, it's a good idea to leave it undisturbed. Absolutely.
I've actually seen that before in the woods, like just the arrangement of mushrooms, and I'll just notice them and, carry on, keep going.
Mm.
And I can recall one time that I just decided to stay in my car and listen to whatever song was playing on the radio. And my eyes drew to a rabbit. And I saw what I thought was lightning bugs or fireflies. I could see like these little lights around the rabbit. And it wasn't like a rabbit having a rave party or anything crazy like that. It was just in the grass.
Oh,
And I was just noticing that.
that's
So it
wild.
could very well possibly be
Yeah.
Faye. I mean, I
That's
want to
very
believe that. I don't have a photograph. I don't have a video. This was before, phones got really incredible. You can make movies with phones. You can take amazing pictures.
that's wild. Yeah. Are you familiar with the movie Harvey?
Yeah,
You ever seen Harvey with Jimmy Stewart?
yeah, I
Uh,
have. Yeah.
well, Harvey was a puka. You know, and here's the interesting thing. The reason what made me think about that when you tell the story, that fairies sometimes can appear as rabbits. You know, and that's an interesting tie on that. That might be what you were seeing. You can never
It's
tell because
possible. It was like this.
yeah,
I
they
love
take
rabbits. I love seeing rabbits, and I see them quite often. Um, I guess it's the times of
that might
day.
be your spirit animal.
It's one
Rabbits
of
may
my
be your
spirit
spirit animal.
animals. Yeah, because I have a bunch. You can have a bunch of spirit animals. And speaking of which,
Well, for
I might
some
have
strange
mentioned.
reason, I have that happen to me, but it's usually owls, and that I see a lot of
Coyotes.
owls for some reason, owls and hawks. That's, but anyway, you have to wonder sometimes if what you're really looking at is really what you think it is. When you run up on entities like that, I'm gonna tell you a quick story though that I had one happen to me. I had a woman come to me, and she was a professional photographer. Okay, I mean she made her living taking photographs. And she came to me one day and she said, "I got a photograph I want you to see." And she said, "I've never taken anything like this before." And it was a picture of a young boy sitting on a deck, and there was like something around his head, you know. And she said, "What is that? I've never seen. I had a picture to do this. It looks like there's something around this little boy's head." So I said, "That's very interesting." I said, did you take more than one picture?" He said, "Oh yeah, I took a series of photos, and this is the only one that shows up in." You know, I said, "Well, let me see the rest of the pictures that you took." So I examined them one by one, and finally, when I got to that, Maureen, I blew it up very close and got a very good look at it, and it turned out she thought she had got a picture of a fairy. That's what she thought it was. Okay,
Oh
but you
wow!
could clearly see when I blew it up enough and put the contrast on it, it was a dragonfly. And the dragonfly was going around him, saying it had just come into the picture, very quickly and flew off, I guess. Uh, but but when you brought it up and looked at it, honest to God, it looked like Tinkerbell or something. And the wings are out and everything on it. And I said, and she said, and when I told her, I said, "That's a dragonfly." And she said, it had me. I'm taking pictures all my life, and I never had one do that like that before. I said it was very strange, but it was wild.
I could see where one would think that that was a fairy, especially if you look at pictures of dragonflies and even hummingbirds, because we get a lot of hummingbirds now that, the weather's it's pretty
Hmm.
hot lately, and I've seen a couple hummingbirds.
Well, if I were a
Um,
fairy, I would definitely ride on hummingbirds. That would be my ride. I'd be on the hummingbirds.
or just ride
But
around on a goldfinch or any type of birds. I enjoy just watching birds and
oh yeah,
rabbits, of course.
have you ever actually seen a hummingbird nest? It's no bigger than your thumb, and
I've
it's got
seen
little
a
eggs in it. No, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I was there used to be. Listen to this. This, of course, back in thousands of years ago, back when kings ran everything. That was one of the dishes of the king. Was a plate of hummingbird tongues. Can you imagine that? How many
oh no.
hummingbirds had to die for his dinner? That's amazing to think about. My gosh. But anyway, that was considered a royal delicacy. A
That's
plate of hummingbird tongues.
Yeah, that's kind of horrible. That's like because I have a culinary background, and I worked at a high end restaurant and hotel, and we had this fancy dinner.
Yeah.
It was for this I don't know who this person was, but they ordered all this exotic meat. Like I got to eat goose and kangaroo, but I could not eat kangaroo. I didn't prepare it. I didn't do anything with it. I just couldn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be hard. Yeah. Kangaroos, I don't know. I think they can get kind of vicious and mean with you, but I kind of like them. They're very unusual looking animals to me. I always remember that crazy song about tie me kangaroo down sport. Remember that one?
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, from like
But anyway,
Crocodile Dundee, I think. Yeah,
and
you
Crocodile
know
Dundee. Yeah.
that movie. Oh, speaking of movies, I wanted to mention Pan's Labyrinth. Has anyone ever seen that movie before? There's definitely the
Oh yeah.
Fae in that movie. It's a Spanish subtitle, but it's an amazing movie.
Yeah, that's a good movie, by the way. I haven't seen it in quite a good many years, though. But yeah, it was a very interesting movie.
I was
Uh,
looking for Gus. I'm not having nervous tics or anything, but he keeps moving out of the camera. He's retiring to his lounge tonight, I guess.
he's restless tonight. And there he is. Oh, he's over
Usually
there
he
now.
sits on the
Is that his favorite?
posts.
That
Like
his favorite
Thursday
chair?
night for Jessica's show, he's on the posts and he stays there. But today he's got to be everywhere. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the coyote sighting that we had. That was an
Oh
interesting encounter.
yeah, yeah. You've been hanging out with coyotes lately, huh?
Yeah, inadvertently, we it was the day after President Trump had the military parade, celebrating the 250 years of the Army and whatnot.
Mhm.
That was on Saturday. So there were also these protests that people were having and whatnot, no kings. And
Right.
I'm not getting political, I'm just saying what's going on. So a lot of people weren't around that weekend. That was also Father's Day weekend, also. So Gus and I were just walking, and we see this lady that has a dog without a collar. The dog's not on the leash. So we're like, we want to not be around that person because, I don't want
Mhm.
anything to happen to Gus and whatnot. And I'm wondering why this lady has her phone out and she's off in the distance, and I'm looking at what she's filming, and I see the coyote. It's just sitting in the middle of the lawn. There's like a soccer field nearby, and there's volleyball courts and whatnot. If you go all the way down at the other end and whatnot, And when she saw me walking by, she saw me and Gus, and then decided to obviously put her, dog on its leash and whatnot. And the coyote wasn't injured because that was the first thing that I was thinking when I saw, the coyote and whatnot. And also, I knew to not be going up to the coyote. I actually posted the video on my channel, Girl and Her Gong 1111. And someone had an interesting comment saying that the coyote would play with Gus and lure him back to the pack. And then it would not be a very happy ending. He would be unalived and whatnot. So
Mm.
obviously we knew to keep our distance. And coyotes, they're tricksters because my background is
Oh,
also in shamanism and spirit animals and whatnot. And like seeing a coyote, there's like a symbolic meaning to seeing certain animals. It's like a
well, I've seen
reminder
some.
to
I've seen
expect the
coyotes
unexpected.
do.
What's that?
I've seen coyotes do some amazing stuff. I've seen them climb fences. They can climb fences and grab cats and get back over real quick. They can be very tricky, definitely, and dangerous to pets. Very dangerous, and they're very quick too. You might think that they might be slightly friendly towards you or something. All of a sudden, they grab your animal and they're gone. That's the way it works. Now, of course, Gus is about as big as a coyote, but so they might not. They would think twice about messing with him. But yeah, you're right. They could, try to corral him off in a different place because they have that, pack mentality. Like wolves do. They know how to hunt things down and they work together in their little gangs. Well, they can be. I've studied coyotes a lot. I've run into them in the woods and different places like that, and they are definitely supreme survivalists. They know how to survive. They're very good at it.
And then it made me think about how cryptid sightings are also on the rise, and sightings of ordinary animals like coyotes and foxes and whatnot. And I thought north of me is Wisconsin. You keep going up, 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 and that's Bray Road. So you all know about the beast of the Bray Road and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
And I just kept thinking to myself, all like the urban sprawl and whatnot. That's probably why, they're tearing stuff down and whatnot. So these
That's
animals
probably
don't.
it. We have a lot of problem with bears where I live at. Bears show up walking around in parking lots. As a matter of fact, they showed a picture of one the other day at a nearby convenience store walking through the parking lot, and a pretty good sized bear too. So we have those too, definitely.
Mhm.
Also, we had that thing. I don't know if you heard about that on news. They had a big fireball spotted over Georgia. I hope it didn't hit you, Jessica, if you're out there listening. Okay. But it went down somewhere in Georgia, a big fireball. It was a meteor. They said it was probably a couple of yards wide. It's a pretty good sized meteor, and they got it. They a lot of people got it on their dash cams and stuff, so it's very interesting. And they had, I think, several fire departments in Georgia looking for that meteorite.
Mhm.
See if they could find it. It's weird, wild stuff going on.
It is, and this is like it's a pretty volatile year. This 2025, and we're getting
Yep.
close. It Yeah, we're at the halfway point. Going past it.
Well, I was going to ask you. While I got you on here as a guest, and we're going to talk about you're being a field operative in a little bit here, but I want to ask you what is your absolute probably favorite part of the paranormal that you're most interested in for you? What is that?
Definitely research and sightings, and like learning about like the cryptozoology aspect of the cryptids, like Bigfoot, for example, a multi-dimensional being, And then, of course, one of my favorites, Mothman. I
Monster
like,
Hunter.
yeah, exactly. It's exciting, to put yourself out there, and be open to these
Well,
experiences.
have
Of
you ever done
course,
any? Have you ever done any spiritual research? Like ghost hunting or anything like that. Have you ever been involved in any of that?
I have, and I had, the EMF meter and whatnot, but I think it was reading a lot of cell phones and whatnot. Um,
Oh yeah.
I've definitely had experience with ghosts. I had one of my patients visit me after he passed away, and he saluted me, and I wasn't hallucinating. I woke up in the middle of the night. I was at the fridge just getting something to eat, and you're looking in the fridge to get something to eat, but you're drawn to looking into the living room. And I saw my patient. I saw a glimpse of him. I saw him saluting me. And this was early 2000s. I've been a nurse for 23 years.
You definitely couldn't say that was a dream because you were awake.
No.
Yeah.
But sometimes I've had these experiences where it's felt like a waking dream, but your discerning mind goes through and deciphers everything.
Yeah, you can get into those kind of states sometimes, I think, where you're like in between. You know what I mean? You're like
Hmm.
in the in between. You're not in this world and you're not in the next. You're sort of in between. We call it liminal places. And you get in that kind of a situation, you can see things sometimes that you normally would not see. Like what you were talking about with that incident with Gus. Sometimes you can cross over into that without knowing it until it happens, and that's very interesting. I've had a lot of people over the years, Maureen, tell me that they have had a lot of experiences like that. For one minute, everything's normal, moving along right the way it should, and all of a sudden, something like that happens. You never know when it's going to happen. It's like I had a woman tell me one time years ago, if you knew something was going to happen, you could be ready for it. I said, yeah, absolutely. If I could make the paranormal perform when I wanted it to, I'd be a very rich man. But it don't work that way, and you don't have any control over it when it happens. But and I tell this to people, I tell this to you, anybody else. If you have these kind of experiences, be very observant in what's going on and try to remember everything that happens, and take notes on it or write it down or whatever you need to do afterwards. So because your memory will play tricks on you eventually. You know how that goes. And but I say it's very important. If you have these experiences, you need to make a record of it for other people. Just like you were talking about earlier about research, and that's a very important thing about research. Not only to read it and research it, but if you have experiences to catalog it. You know.
Yeah, to definitely write about it. That's another point of me eventually writing a book. And I can remember being in two different worlds when I was in a coma when I was 19 years old. And I can remember all the people that visited me and held my hand. I could list their names and whatnot. It's like I was knowing to not go to the light, and knowing that I had to be here because I don't know if I talked about this. I had a near death experience when I was 19. I went through a windshield, and I had a right frontal lobe skull fracture, and a hairline fracture of the cervical vertebrae that was so close to the spinal cord I could have died. But it was a state trooper police officer that saw the accident. I was a passenger. It was a friend of mine that was driving and whatnot. If it hadn't been for those
Oh.
people, I wouldn't be here.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, and you are very close to the veil. You know what I'm saying? That kind of a situation, you were very close to the veil. And when you get close in that kind of life and death situation, you can see things that you normally wouldn't experience. I've had a lot of people tell me that, over the years. Matter of fact, I've been in situations like that where, I was almost dying myself, and I saw things that you normally wouldn't see in the regular world. And so, whenever you get close to the veil, things happen, definitely.
Yeah, I can just see like the glimpses of everything. It's weird to be able to feel that. To be
Mhm.
into two different worlds, and then part of me wanted to not be here, and the other part of me knew to be here. So I kept fighting. And every day that I wake up is a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because we don't know how long we have.
That's so very true, and that's what makes life so very precious. It can be gone so very quickly from us, But that is definitely the interesting thing about life, Maureen. It is, and I've had people ask me this question over the years since you study so much about the paranormal, and your whole life you've been interested in finding out the answers to stuff like that. Is there actually life after death? And I say, oh, absolutely. I've seen the evidence of my own eyes, and the own experiences I've had. And that is the wonderful part about life and death, is the fact is that there's something beyond it. It doesn't end, it doesn't come to a final conclusion for us. There is something that goes further beyond that, and that is, I think, and we being human realize this most of the time. That gives us, I think, over the animals who don't realize these things. We can realize them and know that there is such a thing as eternity, beyond that. And I think that makes life to us as mortals more sweeter and more appreciative. It should make us more appreciative. Anyway. We should be more appreciative for it because it can be so quickly gone. Absolutely.
Yeah, so take the trip, write the book, buy the t shirt, eat the cake, do it. Gotta live your life.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I wish I could see the chat, but it's everything is so tiny right now. I can't really see.
Oh yeah.
That's
It
why
is
you'll
kind of
see me.
it is
I don't
kind of
have a
small
nervous
on the
tick.
screen.
I'm looking down at my iPad and I'm seeing some of the chat.
Well, most of everybody's agreeing with you, Maureen. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Right. There you
Well,
go. Um, but
I
yeah,
can play.
yeah, but yeah.
Yes, I'm
I'm
here.
trying to read some of the stuff here. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be
There's
able to
a-
see.
Yeah, we got a pretty good conversation going on in the chat room, definitely. But anyway, yeah,
But if we have
absolutely. No,
time,
I was
if
going
we
to
have,
talk to everybody about. We were going to talk about the field operative thing a little
oh
bit.
yes, yes.
Next month, now you're going to be at the conference in Florida. That's going to be the Full Disclosure Conference. You and Gus are going to be there, and you're going to report for me from there. We're going to do a little special hookup, and maybe a couple of times while you're down there, talk to some of the people that are attending and what's going on and all that. So that's a little something we're going to do special on hunting the shadows, and Maureen here is going to be our field operative. She's going to be our reporter, and we're going to hook up and do some of that on the conference. So we're looking forward to that next month, which will be here very soon, a few more days. And I think what you got maybe about another week and a half or something before when is the conference, by the way?
Yes, the Full Disclosure Now conference in St. Pete's Beach, Florida. It's starting on the 15th through the 18th. But I'm
15th.
gonna,
Okay, that's
yeah,
about two more
I'm gonna
weeks.
be,
Then. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna be there from the 14th to the 20th because after the conference we have the day of being. That's the party on the beach, where a lot of people are
I definitely
gathering.
might get you to call from that party. Okay,
Oh yeah.
that might be very interesting to see.
It's amazing. It's an amazing day of being where you get to meet up with people that are like-minded. They're patriots. They're people that are into the paranormal and whatnot. And it's just a nice group of people getting together, hanging out on the beach. Hopefully, Gus lets me go, but I think he'll
Wow,
enjoy the beach too.
that
Right
sounds
now,
great.
he's sleeping because I was playing the gong earlier. I'm available to play if we have the time allowed. But yeah, I'm excited to be your field operative to give people a feel of what the conference is like, and just to talk to the amazing people that are going to be there.
I think we'll have a lot of fun with that. Definitely, it's going to be enjoyable. I think, and for everybody that can't be there, it'll be kind of the next best thing, to being there. Definitely, and that's really good. Absolutely, and of course,
Yeah.
Gus will be there. He'll be
Oh yeah.
running wild on the beach, right?
He's the star of the show, and he's
Yeah.
KO'd right now. He made a nice
Yeah.
wicked
Where's he at?
spin.
Is he asleep yet, or is he still?
He's just
He's still
relaxing.
with
I'm
us.
gonna I'm
Okay.
gonna grab him.
All right. He knows how to get comfortable.
There he is.
Yeah.
He's back. He's back. So he's kind of on the bigger end for most French bulldogs.
There he is. All
There
right.
he is. And
There's the boy.
we're excited about being field operatives.
He said, "I don't want to get on TV right now, Mama."
Well,
Yeah. He'll be a boy. Like I said, I was surprised he's that. He does in the pictures. He doesn't look that big, but when you got him, he's holding him up. He's pretty good size. Yeah.
yeah, he's quite big. I have a question. If there's enough time, would I be able to play the gong, or would that be?
Yeah, we're gonna do the gong here in a little bit,
Oh,
and
nice. Yeah,
absolutely.
I forgot to ask you, because all I have to do is turn, and we have the gong.
All right, we'll do it. We'll let you play the gong for us a little bit before we sign off or whatever. Of course,
'Cause I
we still
know
got a little while. Yeah.
I know Chiro is Jane is familiar with the gong. Why don't I turn? We're gonna turn.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
When did you start playing the gong? When did you pick that up?
Well, it's a healing frequency.
That's a big gong.
It's 24 inches. It's a moon gong, and it's for emotional balance. There's me. Hi.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
And it
Yeah.
was a vision that I had.
Oh,
Here's the werewolf. We can get
yeah.
the werewolf. He's a part of the clan. And the gong originated in like the Orient, and it's all about
Oh yeah, that's Gus's werewolf there. It's a guardian werewolf.
yeah. So it's all about sound frequencies and healing, and it's just really beautiful to listen to. And I know in pop culture you've heard of the Gong Show. So if you're ready, I'm just gonna play for a bit. Is there any questions or whatnot? So it's a moon gong, and it's all about emotional balance. And it's a special
All
recipe,
right.
this metal that it's composed of. And just make yourself comfortable and be sure to drink a lot of water because when you experience sound healing, it releases toxins. And the best way to release toxins is to keep yourself hydrated. We have Gus sleeping over there. And here we go.
All right. Yeah. That is neat. Very good. I can feel the harmonics of it, kind of, It's very neat.
Nice.
Good job. Good job.
The final blast.
Do you do that often, or maybe before sleep tonight, or relax you?
What's that? Just let the ocean of sound just kind of wash over you, taking away any of your.
That's what I said. I could even pick up on the harmonics of it, Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So how did it sound? Did it sound okay?
Yeah, that's neat. I enjoyed that. Thank you for sharing that with us. That was neat.
Thank you for. This was one of the things that that I've known that I should be doing. Being a nurse, being into the paranormal and cryptids and everything.
Yeah.
We got Gus sleeping. He just goes right to sleep when I play. It's kind
I
of
could
funny.
see definitely that would be very relaxing to do before you go to bed. He likes it, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, he definitely does. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he likes
Yeah.
But thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Now
I don't
I
blame
can
him.
see the chat right now, so that's
You're right.
good.
The frequencies and tones like that can be very healing and very relaxing. It can kind of give you a little bit of an inner peace to listen to something like that, and the harmonics of life.
Mm-hmm.
It gets you feeling better, and sort of good food for the soul, you might say.
Yes, definitely. It just helps raise your vibrations and just helps you, see the beautiful things in life, like even if it's just a rabbit in the field and whatnot, or maybe you look up at the moon and you see how beautiful it is with the stars, and, you hear music that inspires you, that takes you back to, the good old days, or.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that. What you got
And
planned for the rest of the weekend?
this weekend, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to admit something that might be kind of embarrassing. I play Pokemon Go, and it's Pokemon Go Fest weekend. So I'm gonna be out
Oh,
with Gus
Pokemon.
catching Pokemon. Um,
Yeah. So you're
they're
going out
kind of
looking for
like
Pokemon.
cryptids, the little
Yeah.
different Pokemon.
That's a good
Um,
hobby. They say it's pretty good. I've never played it, but they say it's a fun game.
it was really big in 2016, and I just downloaded the app. There was a particular Pokemon that I wanted to catch called Charmander, and he's this little orange. He kind of looks like a dragon or a dinosaur, but it's a Pokemon,
Well, there
so you
used to
don't
be
really
a,
know what it
there was
is.
a certain kind
What's
of
that?
there was a certain kind of Pokemon, Marine, that you could do with geocache Pokemon.
I
You
did
could
geocaching.
different
Yes.
areas and stuff that they would give you coordinates on, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have done the geocaching. There used to be an app. This was like early 2000s. Oh wait, it was more like 2010 because I was in Madison at the time, Madison, Wisconsin, and that was a lot of fun playing geocaching. It would give you the coordinates of where you're walking. Have you ever done orienteering? That's another one that you follow a compass and you go. I like doing things like that.
Yeah. Sounds like it, but that's very much like the old game. What they used to do, sort of like a treasure hunt thing that they used to do. They would have um clues for it, and that you would follow the clues looking for something. It would take you all over town looking for these things and all that. They used to have games like that where they played, and you would find different tokens, and bring it back to the game. You got so many points. Yeah, I cannot remember the name of what it was. It had a name, and I can't think of the name of it. But I never played it, but I knew some people who did play it, and
Oh, nice.
it was very much like a treasure hunt type thing where they would be looking for the clues and try to find, and it would lead you to different parts of town and all that, because that was back in the day before things got bad and rough. I don't know if you'd want to try that now in certain parts of town. I don't think you'd want to go there looking for anything. But
Yeah, no. But
yeah,
the great thing about Pokemon and your
yeah,
show, Jessica's show, William Nighthawk's show, um, is and Pokemon is how there's like a unity, like you go out and play Pokemon and you see certain people that you see when you go on certain days, and you're at home, you're watching someone's show in the chat, which I'm sorry I wasn't able to see. It's kind of hard. Next time I'll use a laptop. It might be easier to see the chat. But
yeah.
there's just this wonderful sense of unity,
Well,
that
it's hard to
we're
watch
in
stuff
this
like that on your
together. What's
on
that?
your phone. You have to hold your phone up and watch something. It's much better watching it on a bigger screen anytime.
Yeah,
Uh,
I want people to think I've got nervous tics when I'm looking down at the floor at my iPad trying to see the chat and whatnot. I had my contacts in earlier, but my eyes were hurting. It was weird.
oh yeah.
But I was just trying to say, like, the unity of, us being together and, exploring a topic on a show, or, out playing Pokemon. That's what it's all about, just being together and whatnot.
I hear you. Well, I appreciate you being here tonight. Appreciate you so much, Maureen. I think we're gonna have fun with the field operative thing, and we're gonna touch bases with you before that again before we the conference. Hopefully, we'll
Oh,
touch bases with
absolutely.
you
I
again
love
on
being
that.
able to do that, being behind the scenes and doing some interviews and, just out having some fun.
That sounds good. We'll have some fun with it, definitely. And we'll get Gus in on it too. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
I think he's ready to
absolutely.
go to bed. He had
He
a long day,
is.
hadn't he?
He is.
Good night, Gus. Be good,
Yeah.
Gus, buddy. All right.
A lot of times during these shows, he's KO'd. He's on his post sleeping. It's kind of funny. But thank you for tonight and for the opportunity to be here and talk and to be able to play the gong. And please give my channel a follow. It's Girl in Her Gong 1111. It might be, is the link in
Well,
chat?
it's like I tell everybody, this is your podcast too. And everybody's gonna have a voice on here. And who knows who might be on here next? You never know.
Yeah, I'm
But
grateful for that.
yeah.
And if you're in chat and you're thinking, hey, I'd love to do this, do it, give it a
Well, we
shot.
enjoy having you on here, and we enjoy talking to you. And next time we get you back, we'll get more deeper into the paranormal stuff, and some of your trips that you took overseas. We want to talk about that some more. So we definitely got some more. We got some more field work to do there. Definitely, absolutely. But I
Oh, yeah,
appreciate you so much
absolutely.
for being a guest tonight, you and Gus, and take care of yourselves out there and be careful. Keep your head on a swivel. An eye on your six out there, okay? And Gus, take care of mom now. All right, all right.
Stay blessed,
And
everyone. Much love from me and Gus.
okay, you got anything you want to say to everybody before we sign off here? You got anything you want to say to everyone?
Be sure to hit the like button. Support Midwest Night Watchers and their merchandise and their channel on Rumble and Jessica Jones, Cryptid Huntress. Support the War Woman Goods and
Sounds good.
thank you for this opportunity. I enjoyed being on your show. Thank you so much.
Oh, anytime. You're always welcome here. And we will definitely be get in touch with you again before we send you out as a field operative. Okay, absolutely.
Yep. I'll be out
And
in the field.
all right, well, you and Gus have a good evening out there, and take care of yourselves, and don't forget to embrace the mystery. Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Great gal, Maureen and Gus on our show tonight. Absolutely. And she's going to be my field operative. Just wait and see. We're going to have some fun with that, definitely, folks. Well, I appreciate you all for being here tonight so much and for your support for this channel. And definitely it is appreciated. And I want to thank you all so much for being here. And next week, Monday night, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on the road less traveled, Gerald Fountain and I will be doing the next show on the road less traveled. I think we're going to be talking about strange disappearances. You don't want to miss that, so that's going to be good. And Girl on Her Gong's back in the chat room now. She's thanking everyone. Okay, all right. And you take care out there, all of you. And until we get back together again, Godspeed, my friends. And uncover the truth and embrace the mystery. I will see you in the shadows.
I walked in the room.